Hello, and welcome to another microscopic episode of
The Microplotters.
the Microplotters.
Yes.
Listeners requests.
Viewers.
Listeners
those
requests.
that didn't know, we have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah,
where
you
we
can't
don't
see
show
anything there,
anything.
but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Exactly, where we're mysterious, I think. Just like that guy from Watches of Espionage who blurs out his own face.
Ooh,
Except
yeah,
we go
well,
one step further and we don't show anything. It's just a black screen the whole
If you
time.
are Jason Bourne, you don't want people to know how you look, right?
Exactly. That's that's our motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So we are today, before we get into it, talking about a topic that was given to us by a viewer. And once again, we really like it when viewers tell us what they want to hear about, right? Because it becomes a very interesting discussion. Kind of, this is something that I think we would have overlooked entirely if it wasn't for this viewer that wrote in by the name of the Thety, Thety. I think that's how it should be. So now, essentially, he wrote in and he said, he called us out. And he said, basically, I know you guys aren't the biggest fans of microbrands, but there are essentially two 2024 releases that he can say are the best of the year. And essentially, he goes on. We chatted a little bit, and he said he would like us to have an episode on microbrands. And he went from the two releases. He gave us a list of, I think, about 10 or 15, which we are then going to hopefully increase the number of how many we talk about today, because as always, we'd like to do everything turned up to 11. So we are going to go through as many as we can remember and think of. But
Yes.
once again, it is thanks to him that we are talking about microbrands, because most likely we wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Yeah,
So, one, we don't hate microbrands.
no.
Do you own any microbrands in your collection?
Yeah, I did definitely own a few. I'm not so sure. Yeah, well, no, actually not really at the moment. I don't think so. No, I think I at the moment I don't really own any micro brands. No. You?
No. And I did have the Mercy Hodinkee watch, which is technically Mercy.
Did
I
you
guess
really had this? I mean, it seems to
Twice.
have left your
Twice.
collection as fast as the delivery
as
was.
fast as it came in. No, I got it once for a little bit more than I should have paid for it. And the second time I got it for super cheap because I made a very cheeky offer on eBay and it was accepted. And then I sold that one as well. But that time I didn't sell it for very much. But I also didn't buy it for very much. Nonetheless, I think that's as close. I've always wanted a Baltic, I think, but I've
Baltic,
never
yeah.
pulled the trigger. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds? My brother, for instance, he has a Baltic. The closest I think I have to a quote unquote microbrand would be, I'm guessing, my Oris, which isn't exactly micro, but it's independent in the same way.
Yeah, which brings us, I think, to our first topic.
Okay. All right. Our first topic is a wristwatch check.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Are you getting ahead of yourself?
Yeah.
All right. What are you wearing?
I am wearing my Timex
Hodinkee.
Waterbury Hodinkee version on this beautiful red. I wanted to say blue, but it's red. I don't know why I wanted to say blue. Red Hodinkee strap as well. Oh, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah.
Was this one of the $5 straps?
Yep. That's exactly one of the 20 millimeters, $5 or $20 straps, whatever. I know in which batch they are. Of course, all converted to quick exchange. I have done that with my super new pressing thing, where I can cut out the part that you can put in the quick exchange spring bars. Very cool. It's a lovely watch, actually, and I paid only $59 for it. So, yeah, I don't know why I wore this.
It's not a bad deal for an automatic. I think it's a Miyota movement, right?
Yes. It's a Miura for 40 hours power reserve, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that for $50-something. I mean, obviously,
Can't
Hodinkee
complain.
was most likely losing money on this, but still.
Yeah. It's a nice field watch inspired thing. I really like it.
It's not field. It's a freaking dive bezel. Once again, I keep telling you, it's a dive watch. It's a skin diver.
Yeah, but it looks like an Explorer. So
Just because it says 369 on the dial.
exactly.
It has a rotating bezel. It is a dive watch.
And it has a very clicky bezel. You hear that? I don't know.
No, because Teams is going to filter it all out.
It always
as usual.
thinks that it's a background sound, but it's crickety. It's really a very loud clicking bezel. I like that. It's a bit tough going, but it's good.
Is Timex independent?
I don't know. No, who owns Timex? Isn't Timex? Or
does Timex own anyone else?
Yeah, probably probably this way. Yeah, let me see. Timex. I think it's
the Timex Group.
An American Dutch holding company, owner of several watch brands. Okay.
All of which are garbage.
Timex, Opex, Nautica, TX Watch Company, Guess, Versace versus Salvatore Ferragamo, Valentino. So these are all the fashion shitters, basic.
Yeah. They own a bunch of shitters, but they also own Timex, which is nice.
But Guess and Guess Collection.
And once again, remember, the original name for Timex was the Waterbury Clock Company.
The Waterbury. And I have a Waterbury version. Oh.
Yes, you do. And that they changed their name a few times.
Yeah.
But in I think...
I really like how
the number of names they held. They went to Ingersoll Watch Company, then they went to Waterbury Watch Company, not to be confused with Waterbury Clock Company. Then they went to United States Time Corporation.
It sounds good.
They went to Timex in 1969. 69 it became Timex.
Okay.
And in 2008 it became Timex Group USA.
Yeah. It's a private company, has 5,000 employees, so definitely not a microbrand.
So it's a microbrand.
It's an independent. No, it's not a microbrand.
Can it be an independent if they own others? I don't think so. This is one of the things that I personally don't believe. For instance, if you are owning a bunch of other companies,
that's a good question.
You're not independent, right? It's like saying, well, Swatch is technically independent.
Well, look, Recep Rechepi has the brand Acrivia, and Recep Rechepi.
So is he an independent?
Yeah, 100% independent.
Yeah, but this is the question is when you have, okay, fine. Then I'm also wearing an independent.
Ming.
With a clicky bezel. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear my clicky bezel. Nothing. Zero. Yeah, it's also made by a small independent called Rolex. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of them. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my No Date Submariner, or as others would say, the Submariner.
So yeah, now we are talking about independence. We want to talk about microbrands. I think the issue is when you have...
Now, one of the categories for being a microbrand is you must be independent.
Yes, a microbrand has to be independent. I agree with that.
Therefore, okay. A moment ago, you were talking, or you had up a list of things. Where is your list of things? Because now you've wandered away from it.
Yeah, because I wanted to. What basically makes a microbrand?
So let's go into it. Any other watch news before we get started? By the way,
yes, I've been to the super independent event, the Mavericks of Time in the Museum of the Future.
Which is so weird because the Abu Dhabi one was somewhere else.
Yeah, was it? It was not in the Museum of the Future in Abu Dhabi.
There is no Museum of Future in Abu Dhabi. We had it in the in Yas Island at the Coca-Cola Arena or something like this.
The Coca-Cola Arena is also in Dubai, but I think
whatever the Pepsi Arena. No, it was in one of these big arenas on Yas.
It was a 42, wasn't it? In this 42 thing, in this new.
Yeah. Was it? Is that wherever it was? It doesn't matter. Point of story. It's very strange to me that one company would invite all of its Abu Dhabi people to one event and all of the Dubai people to a different event by the same name?
Why not?
Well, I don't know why not. Why not just have one event?
Sometimes, artists do the same. They just tour different countries with the same concert.
They were simultaneous. That's the other strange.
No, they
I
were not
understand if it
simultaneous. They were in the one
was
week.
a week before. Yeah, right. There was a week difference. Okay, fine.
So,
and how was it worth going?
Yes, 100%. The value for money is off the charts because entrance was free.
Because it was free.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. So, I mean, which kind of events do you have where you have Max Büsser, Recep Recepi, and the people from Resins? Even the young Biver was there. Not Pierre, the other young, other son of Jean-Claude Biver, with the Biver brand. I had a chat with him as well. And there's so many owners of the brands or really very senior people of the brands on the floor. And I mean, look, we've been to an MB&F stand, for example, and then there's Max Büsser putting watches on your wrist, right? Helping you to put the watch on your wrist. Where else do you have that? And you have the owner of the company actively standing in front of you, talking to you about the watches and helping you try them out. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really, really cool. And again, it is free. It was, like always, it was impeccably organized by the Siddiqui family. Hind Siddiqui was there as well, and on the first day as well. Saw her and her father, of course. And there's so many things going on. It was
Is MB&F really cool. A microbrand?
No, it's an independent.
But how much? I guarantee you their numbers are micro.
So you could also argue, is it still an independent? Technically.
No, it's not because now Chanel owns a chunk of it. Yeah, Siddiqui owns a chunk of it. By the way, I listened to a recent podcast with Hodinky and what's his face? And you just mentioned his name. Now I'm blanking on it. What's his name again?
Büsser.
Max Büsser. Yeah. Max Büsser. And essentially, he went into why he sold to both Chanel and both to Siddiqui.
Okay.
The reason was, he said he is now 50, pushing 60 essentially. Regardless of how good he looks, he's still almost 60 years old. Then his kids are 7 and 10. Mm-hmm. He said at the earliest, he will know if these kids, and once again, MB&F is a family-owned company. Mm-hmm. So they still hold 51%.
Okay.
He said it's unclear whether his daughters would want to take over this company. Mm-hmm. And therefore, staying as a family-owned company is not going to work, essentially, if the daughters say they're not interested in watches or watchmaking. And the fact is, being that they're so young now, he said they're not going to take it over when they're 20. In fact, most likely, even at 30, they're not going to take it over because they would be too young. So he said at the earliest, 30 years from now, he thinks that they would be prepared to run a company like this, which would be at the age of 40 for the older one. Therefore, he has come to an agreement with both Chanel and Siddiqui Holdings, where the family-owned business portion stays unless the two children are not interested in taking over, in which case, then one of those companies would step in. And essentially the big thing was, he said the main issue was he wanted the name to continue after him. And that wouldn't be possible without
So he
someone
named
else.
both of his daughters with names starting with M.
Did he?
No.
I don't know.
but
But
then
he
the
said he
name
wanted
can
the
only,
company to continue.
MB&F, because then it's like a,
Yes.
Mercedes.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Maximilian Busser. Or Maximilian, it should be. Sorry if it's a woman.
Maxine.
Yes. Maxime.
Yeah.
Busser. Yeah, it could be. But anyway, the point of story is that is what the logic was behind this. Because we were asking, why does he need this? Well, it was all for continuation of the business.
You can argue that how would that investment help the continuation if you have, in any case, own the company? I mean, I just doesn't make sense to me. Why sell parts for continuation? what does
Who knows?
what this
Who
part
knows?
actually do?
This is what he said.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it sounds good, but then
It
the
sounds
question
very
is,
nice.
the question is,
Yeah.
why?
And why now? And why now?
Okay, but look, I think to a certain extent it's good to get investment in. You get fresh money in. You can do certain things. You can prepare the company. You can build up some kind of resources or whatever you might need. Or maybe you just cash out. I mean, that's also absolutely legit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a valid reason, and we shouldn't be angry about it. This is, in the end, he makes watches because he loves watches, but he also needs to put food on the table. So
I think we're past that point. I think the food is there.
Yeah, hopefully.
He doesn't
but
need
you
any
never
more
know.
food.
You don't know.
I'm pretty sure
You
he's
don't.
built a little nest egg for himself on the palm or wherever he's living.
I don't know. But this is the thing. We don't know, and it's totally okay if you just get a nice paycheck for your brands. Everybody who actually creates micro brands as well wants to make a living from it, right? Eventually.
Okay. All right. Back to our thing. What are the categorizations?
I have taken this from the blog of Watch Gauge. It's a small shop that actually
it's pronounced gauge.
Gauge. Watch gauge.
Gauge. What are we, French? Gauge. Gauge. No, it's gauge.
Watch gauge. Okay, watch gauge.
Yes.
And that is it's a platform for independent watch groups. I think it was recently sold to a different person who runs it now.
So it's no longer independent.
How
the irony.
Yeah, funny enough. And who actually was a former employee of the company from Luxury Bazaar. Not Luxury. Luxury Bazaar, exactly, yeah.
He looks familiar, but
no, this guy is not. This is not that guy. It's a different person.
Doesn't matter.
Anyhow,
that's not what we're talking about.
So the point is, and there's a nice list of 5 or 6 different things of what actually characterizes a micro brand. And it says,
and I read through them, and I think they're pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think they're spot on. They're saying they have to be independently owned. That means smaller businesses, usually owned by a few or one enthusiast or collector themselves, so that created that brand. So that's one of the things. The second one is that you usually do not produce yourself. You outsource manufacturing. It's not every time the case, but there's some
exceptions,
right?
We'll get to the exceptions later.
And eventually,
right?
Certain micro brands actually start producing specific parts themselves, right? Or at least assemble themselves, right? So that's also
they're not necessarily made in Switzerland, right? So this is the thing is
definitely
they're kind of all over the place, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
So they outsource manufacturing. Then they usually have lower production numbers, obviously. I mean, lots of these brands are started at Kickstarter or on other platforms where you actually get some kind of investment in. And then you pre-order, or you just create small batches and then sell them off. And obviously, because it's a small independently owned business, lots of these people do not have too much of financial means to create tens of thousands of watches, but a few hundred, right?
Yep.
200, 550, 100, 200, 300. They create them, sell them, make money, make the next one. Like Studio Underdog or other things where we have these
that's one of the ones that I was thinking of, the whole independently owned, passionate people, small limited batches, all of these kind of tick the box.
Absolutely.
But we'll get into some brand names in a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Then
all right, what else?
Yeah, you have outsourced movements, usually not movement makers themselves, because, and this is the funny thing, is that's when you have small makers. I mean, we have Kudoke and some other ones in Germany, which make very small watchmakers. They're independent. They should be a micro brand because of their low production numbers, but they make nearly everything themselves. So they're actually considered to be an independent already, even though they're not as big as you think of an independent, maybe. Right?
That's very true. Most of these micro brands are buying in, ETA movements, Seiko movements, Miyotas.
Yes, exactly. Or
Seagull movements. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then of course they are almost exclusively sold online, which is also one of the reasons that is considered a micro brand because you don't have the distribution capabilities. You're not getting into the big jewelry stores or authorized dealers or these kind of things. And then you have very engaged owners. Most of the time, you have access as a customer of these brands. You usually have relatively easy access to the owners of the company and speak to them. They are usually very engaged in forums and on websites and on podcasts like ours and other things where you actually can access them to a certain extent because they don't have money for big marketing budgets and other things.
Yeah, and the guy that owns Studio Underdog, I remember he posted a video on Instagram, which I thought was funny. Yeah. Essentially, I'm assuming he has an eBay search term for Studio Underdog to see who's selling them. And what he did was he saw one that was pre-ordered or, deposit was put down. And he saw that it was being sold on eBay. And it said like guaranteed pre-order. And he cross-referenced the name along with the orders.
Right.
And went and canceled that guy's order on purpose. Which I thought that was great.
So for context, so he saw somebody who actually put a watch for sale that is not yet even been delivered, right? Yeah. Somebody ordered it on his website, it was sold out, and flipped it on eBay before it had even got delivered. And that is, of course, something that a lot of people don't like. And obviously, this owner from Studio Underdog also didn't like, and that's why he did that, right? He just said, like,
exactly.
This is not what.
And I think this is more of what we should see. Exactly, more engagement like this with the owners.
So then, all right, the next question is basically who buys microbrands, and that's an interesting topic because you don't have a microbrand except one. I did have a few.
Which do we even count Mercy as an independent as a microbrand?
Why not?
I don't know how many watches they make.
Yeah.
They said 300 per. They made 2,000 of the one that I had alone, or 1,500, I think.
Okay, then it's probably
just the Hodinkee one.
Too big for microbrand.
And that's what I was saying. I think it's too big. So no, let's just say I've never owned a microbrand.
See, the thing is, I think it's who is the customer? I would say usually it's people who get into the hobby and are active online, right? Then there are the enthusiasts, right? And there's also just people with a smaller watch budget because usually these microbrands are not too expensive. They're in the few $100 range.
I've thought about this, by the way. Like if you didn't, and I hate it when people say, you have to have money to get into the watch game. No, absolutely not true. No. I was thinking with the number of microbrands available now, if I wanted a watch collection, and let's say you want a 5-watch or 2-3 watch collection under $500 US, it's possible with microbrands. You could find them at, fairly cheap. You can get them for $200 a pop. So maybe I guess it wouldn't be 2-3 under 500, it'd be under 1,000. But you could take $1,000 and literally choose quite a few very nice watches. One of my favorites, which once again is the Baltics. Look at the price of the Aquascafs. Absolutely fantastic, prices on there. You want to get into getting them even cheaper? Go buy a used Aquascaf. I've seen them, the titanium one, as cheap as 1,500 dirhams, if not even cheaper. I think I've seen it, maybe it was around 1,000 dirhams, but that's peanuts for a titanium dive watch that's good to 300 meters. It's nuts how cheap that is.
Yeah.
Did I see that?
Yeah, I just put a couple of websites open with different micro brands that I know and like. So, for example, Monta watches, they're from the US. Very cool.
So Monta has a lot of dive watches that I really like. Yeah, I was just, so you get ceramic bezels. This is, I think, in the Ocean King. You get so much cool stuff for not super huge amounts of money.
Yeah. They're really, and they're lovely designs, lovely dials, really fantastic build quality. And of course, and that's just the one thing that I find incredible now.
So why are we going through the brands? I thought we were going to go through the brands alphabetically. Right. What are you doing here?
Sorry.
Are we going to go through the list?
Okay,
You're jumping around left and right.
I'm jumping around. This was what we always do, right?
Like a kangaroo on cocaine, all over the place.
A kangaroo and cocaine. Yes, that's exactly what we are. Where is the bloody website? Or did I just close it again? No. Definition. Where were we? Did I scroll out of it? I don't know. Anyhow, so there's some. I don't know either.
I don't know what you're doing.
Here we are.
I have it open.
It's a problem. I
I'm
have
going
this
to go through. Okay.
stupid share button thing here. Anyhow, so
All right.
yeah. So basically, that's who's buying this, and I think this is you're absolutely right. There are so many different price points also in the microbrands. You don't have to have a lot of money. You can start with very little, and you can find amazing deals there. And I think it's also one of the benefits. There's now a whole industry that actually caters to microbrands. There's so many suppliers in Switzerland as well as in other countries who actually cater to also smaller orders, right? Because I think that's one of the benefits of the new supply chains that we have in the world, that you can now be a bit more flexible. You don't have to plan, your production street out for like years in advance. You can do certain small batches here and there. I'm paraphrasing a bit. There's still, of course, a lot of lead time needed, right? If everybody produces, you might not get a production slot for a specific case, right, that you just designed, because there's a lot of other things that companies need to supply to. But generally, you find suppliers now. You find even project management companies for watch makers, for microbrands, that actually help you find the right suppliers, like a middleman, and actually organize the assembly of the watch for you, right? And then there's company like Celita, who always also basically tell you, we can just not only create a movement for you, we can also build the entire watch for you, if you like. Send us the crystals, send us the dials, send us the hands, we assemble everything for you, right?
Interesting.
And so there's AMT, which is one of the companies from Celita, who actually creates also really high-end movements for you. They can be also exclusive. That means you can say, I have a manufacturer movement. Not in-house, but a manufacturer movement that is exclusive to me. So there's lots of these things, right? So basically also would you say that the new president of the United States is now also a microbrand?
I was just about to say that. I was going to say sort of the Trump watch is a microbrand. No, because they made too many. Judging by the rule of 300 per, they were making 1,000, I think, per watch.
Yeah, and a couple of these models are sold out, the cheaper ones, right? I mean, the big tourbillon,
quote unquote, sold out.
Not yet. But the challenge there is nobody has received their watches yet, right? I mean, they still have to be produced first.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually get produced. But okay, moving on. I'm going to pick up the pace here because you're literally dragging your feet.
I'm not dragging my feet.
So who's buying them? Things. We have the enthusiasts. We have the new watch collectors that you mentioned, right? Yeah. Somebody that wants to get into watches and they don't know what they like. And you might not want to go out and spend, 50,000 dirhams on a sub, or 40,000, however much it is now, because you might not like dive watches. So why not get something cheaper that kind of looks similar, scratches that itch, and then you see what you truly connect with. We have people that just simply like microbrands. And that's kind of, I think you and I was really looking at, the Baltic stone dials.
Yeah.
I thought they were super cool. And I think it's only a matter of time for me to pull the plug or pull the trigger on one of these Baltics. It's going to happen 100%. Yeah. I just don't know which one. And I'm also too cheap. So I even want a cheaper price. So I'm looking for used ones on eBay.
Yeah, see, there's a couple of these microbrands where I sometimes are very, very tempted, right? Where I'm always thinking like, oh yeah, I should actually get this one. It's really nice. But then, of course, when you then look at your watch collection sometimes, and I track, as you all know, I'm tracking my watch wearing habits, and I realized that I actually forced myself to wear my expensive watches more so that I get my cost per wear down, right? But that also led to a lot of things that I just sometimes don't even know what is in my lower part of my watch box, because I only wear
my cost per wear on the Submariner right now is $197.
That is good. I mean, I had watches. I think I started now getting under 4 figures in some of the watches, cost per wear. But that sucks. If you have more than $1,000 per
Yeah.
wear, you think like, this can't be, man. I have to be in the hundreds, right? Or lower than hundreds. Ideally, I wanted my Timex. Now that I have that, my first cost per wear was $59. So
That's not bad.
that
yeah.
helps, right?
And you've been wearing it a lot. Like I think the last couple episodes you've worn that.
Yeah, I've worn it every now and then. Yeah, so it's good. It's good. Yeah. So anyhow, but my point
I
is,
do
with
have
yeah.
a.
Sorry.
I was going to say I have a cheap G-Shock, and I think that is my lowest cost per wear. Let me see how much it is.
So by the way, you never said which Rolex are you actually wearing?
$15.
Oh, see, there you go. Which Rolex were you wearing? You said that, I think, in the beginning.
The Submariner.
The Submariner, okay.
I said the no-date Submariner,
The
which some people call the Submariner.
Yeah,
That's
also
exactly
Rolex calls it the Submariner. And they call the
that's
other
what
one the
it should be
Submariner
called, yeah.
Date. But
Yes.
it is, that's the problem with, how do you say that when we call Xeroxing instead of photocopying, and Kleenex for any kind of paper tissue,
Yes,
and these kind of things, right? It's
There's a name for that, which I don't know.
yeah, in German it's Gattungsname, aber that doesn't sound good in English, I think.
Yeah,
There's a name
I'm
for
I'm gonna look it up.
So yeah, so I think microbrands are fantastic because they're usually quite creative. They have ideas that are not found in other models, and that's why these guys saying, "Hey, I have a unique idea," like Studio Underdog. Come on, that was the
genericization.
The
Genericization.
So that was crazy designs, crazy dials. Generalization. That's the word for
genericization.
Okay.
Essentially, when a name like Google, Xerox, Taser. I didn't know Taser was one. Do you know Taser was a brand name?
No. But I
didn't
think,
either.
yeah, Taser. Yes, of course. Yeah, made sense. Oh,
So apparently when they turn into these household names, they become genericized because they're generic now.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And they call it genericide.
Genericide. Okay. So,
Yeah. All right.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Guten Tag.
But from a microbrand perspective, I think they are great. What are the dangers? Let's talk about the dangers of microbrands. The dangers of microbrands are that because they are independent and small, they might be not around very long. And that can lead to issues when you need a repair. Usually, because they are outsourced movements, the movements can be serviced or you can find replacement movements somewhere else. The problems come with if you need a crown or you need the hands, and all of these things are not anymore available. Then you might end up with something that looks a bit funny if you have, if the old hands can't be plugged in anymore or pushed in because they just don't fit. Then that sucks. But then
but once again, when you're out $300, you don't really care that much.
Yeah, that is true. But then microbrands, $300 to $900, or maybe even more, sometimes a few thousand. It depends on what you consider really micro-ish, because there's so many cool ideas and so many things out there. One is Arconaut as well, I wanted to mention, because they are super cool.
Are we going through brands now?
I think we should, or is there anything else you want to mention about them? So what then?
No, we can go through. I can. Do you want? I see we go alphabetically.
See, there are 70, 80, 90, hundreds of different
go quickly.
microbrands. So
there is. Let's start with the. We could go through the Teddy Baldassar list, which is fairly comprehensive. We can go through it together and go through that. But you have to go all the way to the top first.
Yeah, I am
that's
there.
Where the A's are.
Yeah, and it was actually created in January 2024.
Yeah, so it's new. It's relatively new.
Relatively, well, since we are in November, I guess it's
a year old. Okay, fine. We'll live. Okay, let's start with.
And there's a few.
There's a few. We're going to skip a few.
Okay, we can mention them. So Anordain, is this actually still a microbrand? I'm not so sure.
I'm not either, because if Hodinkee is making a limited edition with them,
and the price range of $1,000 to $2,500. but I mean, their fume dials, their enamel dials, they are naturally small amounts of production because they are so hard to make, right?
Yeah.
Sure, Seiko also does enamel dials, but because they make millions of watches, they can afford to just take a few dials that take a long time to make. But here, Anodane, I don't know how many employees they have, 15, 30. They're not anymore too micro, right? I think some other watch brands that we consider bigger have less employees. But
Okay.
yeah, Anodane is mentioned.
So I don't know. All right.
Astor and Banks is mentioned, which is... I heard about them. I've never seen one in real life.
Autodromo, that's a big one. So they started off with a bunch of quartz watches, right? And I wasn't a huge fan, and I still don't get what like. Why would I want a watch that looks like a car?
I think this Autodromo we have on the screen is called the Group B,
the rally one, yeah.
And I think
it's supposed to be designed like a Lancia Delta Integrale.
It has a bit of Porsche design elements in it, and IWC elements. You remember when Porsche and design and IWC?
Well, straight up, they copied the logo.
Yeah,
the logo is a PD, like almost.
Okay. You could say that. Yeah. Then we have the big one, Baltic, with the lovely Breguet numbers on it. Yeah.
This is the micro rotor. I think they have insanely cool movements. And that they're using like the micro rotor. Chinese movement is super cool. They had a bunch of really good ones, and that is of course. But the question is, are they still a micro brand?
Yeah, and again, I mean, microbrand. Where does it stop? Is Bremont a microbrand? Is Christopher Ward a microbrand? We're coming to that later, I guess, when we reach C.
Because they're so big now.
Exactly.
We'll get into it, right?
And when do you become an independent watchmaker instead of saying, or independent watch company?
When do you evolve?
Yeah, instead of a microbrand.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Brew watches, also super cool designs. I love them.
I don't know. The story goes that the guy was making a coffee and he's into coffee, so he was
his logo is a coffee bean.
Wanting to time, he wanted to time his extraction, and he did it with his. He wanted to get a watch that does this, which to me, most of us in the coffee world have a scale that has a timer already on it, so it doesn't really make any sense. The story didn't add up. It makes sense if you're not a coffee person, but if you're a coffee person, the story doesn't hold any water. It just did not make any sense.
It is a nice origin story, and it's not a requirement to be a microbrand to have an origin story. But you can. Yeah, it's nice if you have one.
His logo is the coffee bean, but I have tried to to time my extraction in the espresso machine with the Speedmaster, the only real mechanical chronograph that I have, and there it's impossible. You're doing you don't have three hands. You need to flip the lever for the machine, start your chronograph, and essentially kind of lock in the portafilter at the same time, and it's just never going to happen.
What you need then is a regatta timer, right? Where you can actually start with a 10-second countdown, and then you have a hands-free to start.
And then you go. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Okay, so the regatta, here's an idea for a microbrand for coffee timing, espresso machine extraction timing. Use a regatta timer functionality. There you go. Okay. Solve your issues.
Sure that's going to be cheap.
Yeah, and I think I should just do this watch then. No. And anybody can do this. Okay, then it's Carpenter. We already arrived at C. Carpenter, I never heard about them either. It seems to be a company based in Brooklyn, New York. So obviously, maybe.
Nah.
Let's see.
It doesn't look like anything I'd be interested in.
It looks super classy dress watch.
With a date window? It's a dress watch with a date window?
Yeah,
come on.
But it looks very classy with this round date window. I think it looks actually very nice, and with a nice thick crystal. It looks good.
Okay, then buy yourself one.
If I need a dress
you wouldn't
watch.
Spend your own money on it, would you?
No, but I like it. I mean, I like a lot of watches that I would never buy for myself.
This next one obviously is a bit pretentious because Christopher Ward was like it was very rare that you came across somebody that had one. Generally speaking, I felt Christopher Ward was one of these department store brands that no one bought. The name on the dial was way too big.
But you know, they never
made a few
actually
watches
sold in department stores, no?
I know, but to this the illusion that they give. They had the Trident was their main seller, which was not exactly very attractive to begin with. And then all of a sudden, one day to the next, they come out with a whole bunch of hitters, and I was astounded.
Yes,
they came out with the 12. They came out with the Bel Canto, and all of these. I'm looking at like, how in the hell did the same company that made that monstrosity over there, the Trident, which by the way now looks good as well. I have no idea how they were able to pull that off.
See, I think there's lots of changes happened. I think Christopher Ward, the person, right? There is a person named Christopher Ward, I think. He left the company.
I don't know.
I think it was. I think, yeah. Anyhow, so it's now, they're producing now in Switzerland. So they have moved certain parts out of the Britishness of the British island to Switzerland to produce things. So they have people actually sitting in Switzerland, part of the company, producing the watches and stuff like that. But they're still a British company. So they consider themselves a British company. They are part of the British Clock and Watchmakers Association, like a lot of microbrands as well, which is a very good thing. And yeah, so I think there's a lot happened when they started to really produce Swiss-made watches. And there's a lot of quality improvements that you see. And I think they also jumped a bit in prices. I mean, look at the Bel Canto, for example, right? The Bel Canto
$4,000
with the current gong. And now they actually made improvements to their process of producing it, that they can produce way more per month than they had before. Before they had always these small little batches, and not because they didn't want to make more, just because they didn't have the facility to make more. They just couldn't. Now they can make up to 500 a month. So that means they could actually meet much bigger demand, and you don't have to have these drops and all of the stuff that they have done. You could say it was great for marketing because these watches were trading above retail, right? Because people couldn't get them because you needed to get into that specific limited production run. So anyhow, they're doing well. So I think they are now making more revenue than Bremont, for example. So it's pretty good. They're pretty good. I think a couple of tens of millions of dollars revenue. So not bad.
Yes.
Then we have Dan Henry.
Never heard of it. Have you?
Yes, I have. And I think the Dan Henry was one of these brands that, like TGV and stuff had a few times. And I think they were different.
Sorry. Oh my God.
No.
I got something in my throat there.
Look, you can love him, you can hate him, but he brought a lot of people into this hobby, right? So when in a time when there was not,
he's so sleazy.
I know.
Every time he
I watched
with his
him
slicked back hair.
I watched him as well in the beginning because there was not so many people on YouTube talking about watches like this.
Yeah.
So
even then, I still didn't watch him. I couldn't do it. And he had the very Trump personality where he was like, I am the greatest watch collector in all of mankind.
Yeah, and all of his royalty and military obsessions and all of his stuff. Yeah, it was a bit.
He pretended like he was royal. He's like half British, half American. I'm not entirely sure, but nonetheless, I wasn't a huge fan. Yeah. All right.
Anyhow, so yeah, Dan Henry makes a lot of interesting watches that are inspired by, of the
this
years
one's cool.
past.
It's called the 1970, and it looks like an old JLC Polaris.
Yeah, and they have a couple of these car-inspired ones and other things. They have different themes, and they're actually quite cool.
Okay.
Then there is another company called Deep Blue.
Never heard of them.
Okay. Then there is another company called...
Have you?
No. Dufresne.
Okay. Never heard of them.
I also didn't hear about them yet, but they are coming from Austin, Texas. So there you go.
Are they?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
And then there is the Elka watch company, and that I heard of. Elka.
Okay.
It's a Dutch brand. And
Never heard
they
of
have made a
Dutch.
couple of really cool cooperations with Ace Jewelers from Amsterdam, also, of course, Dutch. And they have done some really cool, small, limited edition
Is that your
cooperations.
Tudor AD?
Yeah. That was an AD from
That's why
which
you
I
know of
bought a
them.
couple. Yeah, absolutely. From which a couple of cool watches. And they make a lot of now these collabs. Ace Jewelers makes a lot of collabs with really cool brands, mostly smaller brands, but also like what is it? Frederic Constant and others. Really cool designs. Like the World Timer from them is really cool, with Amsterdam, of course, on the dial. And then what else do we have?
Okay.
Here we have
Eza.
Eza.
I never heard of them either. But the watch that they have up here is called the Sealander, and I like it.
Eza is a
You know, I love
brand.
all dive watch, especially skin divers. I'm a huge fan of.
See, this is also one
It's
of
German. It's one of yours.
It was a German brand apparently, which then died during the quartz crisis and was rejuvenated by two Dutch gentlemen who made it their mission to develop high-quality vintage-inspired watches produced in Germany again.
Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting.
I did not know
Which
that.
that really brings me to the other point. Like companies, I don't know if Vulcane is on this list, for instance, but are they a microbrand? Are they?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, with that kind of brand history and all of this stuff, even though
exactly.
it's
With
a
history,
restarted
can you
one,
be a microbrand?
Yeah, I don't know. And if you have Farah I knew of.
Farah, I know of.
Never
I know
had
of them.
one, but I know of them, yeah.
Yes.
Formex.
Also, I know them for their dive watches.
Yeah.
They have a lot of really cool GMTs and dive watches. I think they make a lot of titanium stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
If I'm not mistaken, Formex is now, I think I would not consider them a micro brand anymore because I think they are being distributed, for example, by Siddiqui. Wasn't it? Formex? I thought Formex you can buy here.
I'm not sure.
With a retailer. I think
not
so.
sure.
Ah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Oh, look. First sentence that Teddy, it helps if you read sometimes. Formex is one of those brands that are certainly on the cusp of being classified as an independent.
Yeah, see.
So, yeah, probably.
Helios.
They have the C4th and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. They're considered the Rolex of microbrands.
What? Wow.
Yeah. They're absolute insane finishing and just the materials that go into it. James Stacey is always talking about Helios.
Yeah.
And I think it's a Canadian company, no?
It is from Vancouver.
Okay, there you go. That's why he likes it so much. He probably has vested interest.
Then we have Hegit. Hegit?
So Hegit is one of those watches that they basically made a watch case that is modular that you could swap out. You could swap bezels, cases, straps, and basically you take out what looks like a little pocket watch and clip it into a case. And you could have a dressy case, a tonneau-shaped case, and a whole bunch of different varieties.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, cushion case. And then you could put them on, and then you could have a bezel on it, like a rotating bezel. You could have a GMT bezel. You could have a dive bezel, a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So you could make kind of whatever you want.
So that's a very interesting concept, and I like this. And I just feel like if you leave it in one setup for a long time, you will probably have a lot of dust and things actually accumulating in certain areas. But then you can actually disassemble it and clean it, right? That's not too bad.
Yep.
But if it's French, then I probably should recall our pronunciation of it and not call it Hegit, because it will be Egi also.
Egi. Sure.
Or Egit.
I'm not sure how much they cost, though. That's a very interesting question. Let me look up how much something from Egi would cost.
Just quickly look at their collection. Let's see the latest one here. They have some funky designs nowadays. Wow.
Yeah, they do.
3,300 euros, this one, the Egi Mirage Soleil Green. That is a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, good enough.
Then let's say the Black Vision.
How much?
Also same, 3,250.
Yeah.
Euros.
All right. Okay. That's a bit much.
Well, no, it doesn't say it has to be cheap, huh? But microbrands usually are. Anyhow, so we have L'Aventure, also a Swiss brand. It's a Swiss brand, but Price point north of $3,000. So yeah, also I would say micro, but leans into independent territory, right? Laurier.
All right. I'm not familiar.
Laurier,
Am
I heard a
familiar? I'm
lot
not
about.
sure.
Yeah, no, Laurier is I think they have a lot of vintagey. And
Oh, this one looks straight out of once again like a Black Bay 58 or something. Black Bay 54.
Yeah. LumeTech.
Okay. Everybody knows about LumeTech. Yeah,
Which is funny. Why do we know about LumeTech?
No idea.
Yeah.
I don't know where we learned about it, how we know about it, but we know about
there's
it.
this other company is very famous for Lume, which is like what they are called. They have
the Swiss one.
They also have the Luminox.
Luminox, yes. Luminox.
Yeah. On LumeTech and Luminox, I always mix them up. But yeah.
Okay, the next
LumeTech.
one.
Okay.
Next one, I definitely know about, and I like this watch.
The
Man.
Swiss. Sorry, it's a Swedish company.
Now, here's the problem, and I will never forgive them for this. They named their watch the Manhattan.
Yes.
And they don't spell it Manhattan. Why would you miss that?
Manhattan. The Manhattan.
Yeah, why wouldn't you call it a Manhattan instead of a Manhattan?
Yeah, you can call the watch brand Man and just call the model Hatton.
Manhattan.
Then it's the Manhattan watch.
Or you could do it separate. But there's so many good things you could have done, but nope. They missed the mark on that.
Yeah, but
one.
I think
it's a very good looking watch.
And it's a Swiss movement inside, I think, right? Especially this Manhattan. It looks good.
And the design looks much more expensive than you
totally.
would
And it's
think.
very slim. It's a lovely, Geneva striped dial. I mean, it's really pretty.
37 mm.
Pretty elaborate. It's really a cool watch. Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Côte de Genève,
Martin Arrow. I don't know.
Martinero. Then you should know. Martinero. It's your brand.
I don't know, but it's my brand apparently. But
Martinero.
All right. Okay. Also, Magritte. I know the artist, the painter. I don't know the.
No, that's Magritte, not Magritte.
I know. I was kidding.
Magritte. I know them for many years because I was very close of ordering watches from them. They're from New Zealand, and they have this Moana watches, and they had a lot of these watches that used these local tribal engravings on their cases. They looked a bit, the case shapes were always a bit like Panerai-ish, right? On the bigger side. So they had lots of surfaces, which could then be engraved with the Maori, illustrations and things. And they looked super cool. I loved them because I've been to New Zealand and I found them there and I thought, wow, this is so cool. And then I followed them a bit, but I've never actually pulled the trigger, even though they have really, really cool watches. Mostly Swiss movements in it, but cool case designs. And they had these for a time where every watch was somewhat Maori inspired and inscribed, which looks super cool. Handmade.
All right.
But now they also make normal watches without these kind of decorations there. Messina Lab. Well, Messina Lab is on,
Yes.
We just.
I do know Messina. William Messina. He has made a bunch of things.
Yeah, and I
never was a huge fan of him. His design style. He's I believe he's based out of Los Angeles. He made the Moser?
Yeah,
Messina?
this is the latest, is the Messina and Moser collaboration.
But then once again, Moser is now doing this with a lot of different people,
and
like
I've seen this
Studio
watch,
Underdog.
I've seen this watch live at the Mavericks of Time, where Moser was also there because they're independent. And I must say, it looked pretty cool. I liked it.
How much is it?
25,000 Swiss francs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call, Messina Lab itself
I wouldn't call it a microbrand.
Might be a microbrand, but the collaborations certainly
not. Yeah, certainly not. All right. Okay.
Melbourne.
Never heard of them.
Mercer. I heard of, but I don't know anything about.
All right. Go to the next one and tell me what it is before you look at the brand.
Unimatic.
It is not. It is a brand
it can't
called
be
Mark
because we are
II,
not by
apparently.
you, right? So yeah.
No, I said it was a Benrus.
Bell & Ross?
And it's also not a Benrus. No, Benrus.
Okay.
Benrus, who make these military inspired, once again, an old brand that died, came back, was brought back. But no, apparently this is a company that makes a bunch of homage watches. I clicked on their website here.
MK2.
They make one called the 300, which looks like a Seamaster 300 and so forth.
Wow, we're coming now to Minase. Wow. Look at this. This is an Urushi Maki-e. Maki-e is a very, very interesting way of actually putting gold dust and other things and painting into stuff. We have pens with Maki-e, dials with Maki-e, and Urushi lacquer. Amazing Japanese craftsmanship. But Minase, in any case, wow, is it a microbrand? I don't know. Because they're so... they produce fewer than 500 complete timepieces annually. So Minase, I think, but
so does MB&F.
Yeah. Monta, there we go. Monta, there we go.
Monta, don't they have the Stingray? Is it the Stingray? Something made from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, they are excellent. I think I've yet to speak to somebody who owns a Monta watch who doesn't have high praises of their quality and their feel.
I have yet to meet anyone who owns a Monta watch, full stop.
Okay. Now, I know a few people, at least online, who love Monta watches and have a few, and they all saying like you can't believe, even if you are a Rolex collector or whatever, of the quality that they provide. Similar to, I think, maybe a step down to Nodos as well, which we probably come to soon.
Next,
there is an next one.
Alphabetically, that would come next, yes.
They're also excellent watches, yeah. And then there is Norcane mentioned in Teddy's list.
I've heard of them from somewhere. I'm not too sure where. Yes.
Yeah. So I met Toby again, right? Toby Küffer and Norcane. And I still, as we have talked about Norcane so much, let me get my, wait, I should wear my Norcane hat. Second.
You have a Norcane hat? They gave you one?
So I am back and I'm wearing now my Norcane baseball cap. See? Norcane.
Yeah, it's very nice.
On the side. I don't know if you can see that.
It's signed by him?
No. Let me take it off. It's only on one side.
You're a Norcaner.
I am a Norcaner. Like I am a Berliner. Right. So anyhow, really cool brand, but I wouldn't consider them a microbrand. Totally not.
Yes, if it's sold by, once again.
They are distributed everywhere. They have a huge distribution network, which is incredible that they made that so quick, so well. And they partnered with Kinesi and Celita and who knows what other movement manufacturers. It is amazing of what they actually have done in such a short time. They founded in 2018. They're 6 years old. Imagine this.
Yeah,
they are so independent. Yeah.
We're going to run out of time. We're only at ends.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Let's go quickly.
NTH.
Never heard of it.
They have stopped their business. Has stopped producing watches. Unfortunately, they said we
Oak
are
and Oscar.
off the books now anymore. Oak and Oscar.
I'm surprised their watches aren't made of wood.
No. Yeah. I heard about them.
Yes.
But
I heard about them. I just don't know anything about them.
Ocean Crawler. I also heard about them.
Never heard of them.
I heard about them. I'm in a couple of these watch groups in these Discord servers and stuff. Deal with different microbrands and watches, and I'm in the Microbrand collective. Also, very interesting WhatsApp group. If you Google that, you find that where you can actually speak to a lot of these founders of microbrands as well. Very interesting stuff. Anyhow, for the microbrands, I think we should have the founder of the micro and independent group collective on our show. I can get us to chat with him about microbrands, and I think he could then give us the real lowdown about it.
Maybe somebody who knows what they're talking about
is needed. That would be good, but not now the two idiots talking about it, we could actually have somebody who knows what they're talking about. And let me get this guy. I have his contact details. I met him at the Bremont launch event, and we actually should have him on the show. That would really help.
In the meantime,
we are going. Yeah. The Orion Hellcat. Sure. Interesting watch. Orion.
Never heard of it.
Orion. I never heard of Orion. That's true. Raven.
Okay.
Woof.
Never heard of it.
Looks cool though.
Reservoir Dogs. I know we've heard of.
Reservoir.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
Not my style.
No,
Super weird stuff.
That's okay, but I think it is very unique, innovative. I think it's different. And look at the different. I mean, that's a retrograph watch. Not bad.
Yeah, they have weird jump hour
Retrograde,
movements,
not
retrograde stuff. A retrograde, yes. They have all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Scurfa.
I know Scurfa. I like their design. They're very tactical style tool watches.
The next one founded in 2014, and they have watches that here saying like for $230 you can get a one watch that has a 500 meter water resistance.
Yep.
And a helium release valve for $230.
Yeah, it's quartz, but still.
That's amazing.
It's cool.
What do we have here next?
All right, Serica. Serica.
No,
very
Serica.
cool stuff.
Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
Spinnaker. Very popular brand.
It.
Very popular brand, Spinnaker. Yeah.
I don't know that.
This is here. They have the brands like Aviator, right? AIVA8. Spinnaker is one of their brands that they created, but Spinnaker is quite popular.
But I don't like AV8.
Yeah, but Spinnaker is quite popular. I have seen people. Sternglas Zeitmesser.
Never heard of it.
Sternglas, that's a German name. Of course, Sternglas means star glass.
It looks very Nomus.
It does.
/ the Bauhaus style, the watch that they're pointing. Okay.
It's a Hamburg-based brand.
Stratton.
And then we have Stratton.
Never heard of it.
Me neither. Must have
the next one I have heard
Truska.
of.
Yeah, I heard of Truska.
Yes, I've heard of them. And one of my favorites, here we go. Another one that I have looked at 1,000,001 times. The Unimatic.
The Unimatic is always for me is something that I'm drawn to them because I really love their cleanliness, their simplicity, their absolute cool design language, and also they're a bit of a brutalist, right?
Yeah,
brutalist
for sure.
look, but so clean, right? I mean, look, they have the bezel with just the Lume with the one plot on it.
It doesn't look Italian at all. Right? Like you look at this and you tell me that's made in Italy, I would say no, it can't be. Like Italians would have more flair than this. No, but it's an Italian Milan. The company is it's
a very Italian company. You're absolutely right. But it looks like Milan based.
It's I love it. And you look through all of theirs, the U1 and so forth, and they all look fantastic.
Yeah, you're right. I like them too.
Manage to really get some stuff. But once again, is it a microbrand? Are they beyond being a microbrand?
Yeah.
I'll leave that
question.
I'll leave that up to you guys.
Then we have Vaer. V-A-E-R.
Hold on, pause. Back to Unimatic.
Okay.
The watch that we were just looking at is $525. It's such a good deal. It's such a good price. It's such.
Yeah.
It's very much nice.
Unimatic. I have to after this recording. I have to browse a bit.
You have to go buy something.
It really is cool.
Right.
I think I should go for Unimatic. Vaer, also just relatively new, 2017. Founded, so interesting. I don't know much about Vaer. Vero, also
never heard of.
Yeah.
Now the next one I do know about.
Vortic.
Yes,
but it's so Vortic. It says here that there's 3 students from Penn State and the US have created a concept or envisioned a concept in 2013. So they're just 11 years old. Tell us about Vortic.
Essentially, the same listener said that they had just come across our podcast, the one that started this whole idea of us talking about microbrands. And he said he was actually on the episode where we talked about how the Apple Watch, the new Apple Watch, was being sued by some company for a specific infringement.
Some sensors. Yeah, some sensors. So
Now, he said the similar thing happened with Vortic. And the guy clearly is very into his microbrands. So basically, Vortic, what they do is they take old pocket watches and old regular watches, and they essentially do what in the car world we call, what do we call it in the car world? When you take something old and you make it newer. No, it's not modding. It's, I'm trying to think of It's like retrofitting new parts into old cars and making it new again. I forgot the word. Whatever.
An old 911 and make it electric car.
And you make it all new. What Singer is doing. The Singer is doing it with the Porsches. What is the word? Restomod is the word I'm looking for. Restomod.
But basically,
so essentially, you take these old watches, old movements, old dials, old parts, and make a new watch out of it.
But they do make they take pocket watches and make wristwatches out of them. Yeah.
Essentially, yes. Now, the issue is they do reuse the dials. And in some of them, it'll say Hamilton on it. And the one that we're looking at says Hamilton on it. Now, guess what?
Well,
Swatch was not very pleased with somebody selling a watch with their name on it.
That is true.
So they decided to sue Vortic with these 3 students. And this lawsuit lasted 6 years. I just read it today. Essentially, they've sued them for trademark infringement using our name. Well, and I will read you what the conclusion of this lawsuit was. So Hamilton filed suit against Vortic and its founders for selling wristwatches that featured restored antique pocket watch parts with Hamilton's trademark. The district court entered judgment in favor of the defendants, finding that Vortic's use of the trademark was not likely to cause consumer confusion. So why does this matter? Well, essentially, it's been confirmed that the trademark infringement suit bears the burden of providing that a defendant's use of its mark is likely to mislead their consumers. Essentially, you would confuse. So Hamilton has the burden of proof here. So Hamilton has to demonstrate that Vortic is stealing sales away from Hamilton, and essentially that they are confusing Hamilton proper with Vortic.
Right.
And basically, the court said, no one's going to go to Vortic's website and say, oh, look, I'm getting a real Hamilton.
Okay. I think
in addition, there's one more big thing here. In addition, the court said that this so-called upcycling of old and vintage parts is perfectly legal and they can continue to use the trademark. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that we want to see when it comes to these kinds of, you have something old, beat up, nobody wants anymore.
It is borderline, right? I think if you're selling, they're not selling it as a Hamilton, right?
No, they're selling it as a Vortic, exactly.
Vortic and saying it has a old Hamilton dial or something. But that's the thing. It's obviously as a copyright holder or patent holder, or copyright holder, you have to go after this, because if you don't, then the next person who creates a watch and prints Hamilton on the dial will say, well, you didn't go after these guys. Why do you go after me?
And which is funny because they took 6 years.
Yeah, and that's why you have to sue them, just because you have to protect your copyright. Otherwise, the next court will say, you didn't fight for your copyright then, so you now can't fight for it now. So it's really so silly. But I think from a legal perspective, it doesn't mean that they necessarily want to go after the small ones. They just have to, because otherwise they can't protect their copyright elsewhere. But it always looks like the big bullying the small, and that's usually.
But these are not cheap watches, by the way.
You remember the Rolex story?
They're
when Rolex,
34.
Rolex sued this little children's watch clock company because they used the Oyster name for it, and they said,
"Oh no, not that one. That's not the one I was talking about. I was talking about the one that made California dials in California.
No. I meant these other one. It was a children's clock company that made children's clocks to read the time, right? And they have something, I don't know what it was called, something with the oyster. And it was a big deal because they said like, oh, now Rolex is suing this small company, and that was really weird. Here, Rolex tells the small children's clock maker to basically bugger off, because they call it Oyster and Pop. Their brand was called Oyster and Pop. It had nothing to do with Rolex, just it had the name Oyster on the dial, like Oyster Perpetual. And so they sued them, and that was, And that was, I mean, look, and the funny thing is they are actually, I think they're located on the Oyster Road. That's why they had their name Oyster and Pop on it or something. I mean, so you see that on a road called Oyster Bend and Paint in Devon. That's where they are born. So that's why they call it Oyster. It had nothing to do with Rolex or anything. But because Oyster, the name was on the dial for this little children's teaching watch, right? Rolex had to go after them, even though it was not very well received. Anyhow.
Meanwhile, the other company that I was talking about was called, there was a California-based customizer called La Californienne.
Yes.
And they made a whole bunch of weird custom Cartiers, Rolexes, and a bunch of weird stuff. So essentially, they took a Rolex Submariner and they made it essentially every color of the rainbow was a different Lume plot. And Rolex sued them as well because apparently once you customize it, you cannot keep the Rolex name on the dial.
Yes, and
that's what they said.
And sell it as a Rolex watch, which was the problem. They didn't sell it as a La Californienne something.
Yes. So which is kind of funny because if you remember, Bamford got his start doing this. Blacked out Rolexes, but I guess they always called them a Bamford Milgauss instead of just a Rolex Milgauss.
But he also got problems, and then he actually had the issue that he could still customize them, but only, and this is what La Californienne basically also could have done, saying, I am customizing your watch. You send me your watch, and I customize it and send it back to you. On your behalf.
Yes, so he wasn't sent.
La Californienne did not do that. They bought watches and then sold them as new watches to other people. And that's where Bamford said, well, I'm just customizing on behalf of the client, right? So that was okay.
Yes, which
you could do that.
It's a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have
moving
Vice.
On. Vice, yes,
Field
also
watches.
based out of US, I believe, right?
Yes.
Los Angeles. Okay.
Back to France. Yema. Excellent watches. Not all of their designs are good for what I like, but they are creating I think all of their watch parts are created around a 60 or 70 square, diameter radius around their place in France. So there's lots of Swiss parts in the watches because they're on the border to Switzerland. But that's how they managed to get actually relatively cool and good production there. I mean, things like are local produced.
All right, we got to pick up the pace here. You love
Zelos.
chatting, but Zelos, very familiar with. Also, the Mako line of dive watches are super cool. William Wood, not familiar with.
Not familiar with these. I am familiar with them. They are a British company, and they used to upcycle lots of these fire equipment, like these fire hoses and other things from fire engines, and put them into watches. That's why you have also this fireman's helmet as their logo. Yeah, very interesting.
Cool. All right, now it seems like Teddy has gone back and no longer doing alphabetical, but
Bosel.
Bosel, no,
I know
nothing
about them.
Walden, no. Studio Underdog, yes. Obviously, their watermelon, their chronographs based on their seagull movements, super cool during COVID.
New movement right now with the new watches.
Yeah. Now they have new.
Hand wound.
Okay, this one we both know.
Kyoto.
Kuo. Yes, I don't know how to spell it, but they essentially are a very, very well-known Japanese manufacturer.
Trafford.
Nope. Circular. Nope.
Also from Texas.
Oh yeah, this is another one that I've liked.
Circular.
If you keep the next one.
Oh.
Tornik Ravel. So Tornik Ravel, as you know, is the American name for the Blancpain 50 fathoms that came over because the U.S. had the Shop American Act, which essentially meant that American Army supplies could only be made in America. Therefore, Buy American Act. Is that what did I say? Shop American? Buy American, whatever it is.
That's fine.
Essentially, all military products had to be American made. So this guy, Ravel, something Ravel, because Tornek is where the Blancpain headquarters are. No, Alan Tornek. Okay.
Yeah.
This is very funny.
Rayville is
Very funny. I remember now.
Anagram of
It's an anagram for
Villeray,
Villeray, which is where Blanc. I knew it was something related to this. So this guy, Alan Tornek, brings over a bunch of uncased Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Rayville, once again, Villeray, backwards, genius, and started building all of these watches. And they went off to, serve in the U.S. military.
Yep.
And then they went out of business. And then, of course, it was relaunched, I think, in 2010. And now they make similar watches.
Mm-hmm. Next one, Momentum.
Momentum Dubai.
Heard about them, yeah. Momentum Dubai
That's
actually sells them, I think. I have a special version of them. ADPT.
Bleu, 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 bleu. ADPT, I don't know, but the next one is bleu, bleu.
Bleu, bleu.
Bleu, bleu.
Bleu, bleu.
Bleu.
Bleu, bleu.
No, that's a great name for a watch,
Bleu.
but sorry, no. Cincinnati wasn't, no, that was not. Cincinnati Watch Co. I thought this was an old one. No, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Once again, we're not the right people to be doing this.
No.
I'm going to start scrolling because we're way over time.
Econutra.
Nope.
Islander. Islander, I know it is not from the Long Island Watch Company. No, exactly. Long Island Watch Company. The guy, this guy who is the retailer, he has his own brand.
No.
Yeah, he's also pretty popular on YouTube.
Isotope, I know.
Yeah, we know this.
No idea where I know it from, but I know.
Isotope, good watch. Olak and Weiss, also.
Nope.
Swiss brand, I know them. No, Pollen, I know them. Heard about them. They are Scotland-based. Pollen watches, 2013. Scottish. There you go. Straum, I also heard about them. Straum watches. I think, they're Scandinavian. Then you have Seric.
Nope.
Heard about them as well. And that's
it. Okay. Done.
And then, of course, if you go to the comments, there's probably a lot of them where saying like, oh, you didn't mention Tecno Tempo, Venezianico, and so on and so on and so on. And yeah, there's lots of brands that are not.
D1 Milano.
Yeah, exactly.
D1
Milano was formerly based in Dubai. Not anymore, I think.
Now it's based in China.
Back in Italy.
Probably.
Who knows? But these are a lot of these micro brands that we wanted to mention just to see, do we know them or do we not know them? Obviously,
yes.
We both didn't know half of them, which is always interesting to see.
But the fact that we knew half of them is already pretty impressive. I mean, for someone who
between the two of us,
we don't say that. We're in this, so I think that's pretty cool.
I also wanted to mention Arconaut because that is cool. Black Badger and Anders, the two guys here who actually created that brand. I had one. I loved it, but it just didn't fit my wrist so well, so I had to sell it. But the cool thing is I actually sold it back to them, so they could then find somebody in their waiting list to give it to them, which was really cool. So
they buy back their watch. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, they, didn't buy it back for the full price, but I wanted to.
But I think that's still not a bad idea.
Because instead of me selling it, I wanted to rather put it to somebody on the waiting list. It's much nicer,
But imagine this: if we had a brand model where instead of selling it back, what we could do would kind of be connect people on the waiting list with people willing to sell a watch. That'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
So.
Anyhow, but
essentially saying like, we won't buy it back, but we'll give you the email address to all the people who consented to giving their email address for those that wanted to sell.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a data protection.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's, but you could find a way to do it.
But I think this whole 4-diet watches and the new cool dials that they have created, I mean, amazing stuff. I think I might go back and get one again.
Buy another one. Yeah. For me, I like the Unimatics. I like the Baltics, which once again, I like the bigger brands. Captain Obvious. So
Captain Obvious. Okay. On that bombshell, we are calling it a day, and we are both now checking the Unimatic website.
Yes. No, I'm on eBay.
Okay.
I'm looking for a Baltic.
Alrighty.
/Unimatic.
So we are of course now hooked again on our microbrands ourselves, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We tell you in the next episode of what kind of microbrands we purchased. Alrighty then.
All right. Bye-bye.